I don't know if you need a TED Talk style introduction where I talk a bit
Okay.
about.
Today we talk to Sleep Bomber, who is currently engaged in a multi-year research project involving an innovative historiography. He also happens to be my dear brother.
I prefer to be preposterous than anonymous.
He is preposterous.
Anywho, in 2017, I had a total physical, mental, existential breakdown.
This is not history. I thought you were going to talk about Rome.
Yes, I am going to talk
Okay,
about
go ahead.
Rome,
Sorry.
but a lot of stuff happened for me, so I needed a method of escape, and I had a question. I'm skipping a lot of parts here, but this is kind of a TED Talk kind of intro where I just tell you about the trauma that informed my work. Um, yeah, 2017 was pretty bad. Disappointing election, bad breakup, drug abuse, sickness,
Wait,
feeling like I was going to
disappointing
get fired.
election for you. I'm
Yeah,
just kidding.
is that
No, I'm,
not
I'm just no, I'm joking. That
okay?
was a joke. Um, okay.
Um, so and that was just like I just said. That was just one part of it. Um, so I decided to do some research online because I had a question, which is I wanted to ask humanity in general, society, civilization, why are you the way that you are?
Okay, the you being the collective you, like people.
Yeah, yeah,
Why are things as they are?
yeah. How did we get this way?
Oh, how did we get
Um,
this way, this far, this?
why
How
why
about why is there something
who
and not nothing?
who put the who put the bop in the bop shoe bop shoe bop? Who put the ram in the
That's
ram
I
lime
was
in the
always
ram?
wondering that same thing. I was wondering that this morning.
And if you put the lime in the coconut and you drink them both up and you say doctor, what then?
What then? What happens?
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting a little off track here.
No, no, no,
So
no. I think you're getting on track. This feels
okay, good.
better than actually how you started. I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
I thought you'd feel that way.
I'm just kidding.
Like
Go ahead.
okay, no,
No, I'm
no,
I'm
it's
I'm
I.
hearing you. I'm hearing you. I want
As soon
to.
as I wrote that, I'm like, Lee's gonna roast me. That's okay.
No, I'm like
I've heard your roasts.
uh, no. I'm like, should I give him a hard time about his trauma arc? And I'm like, no, I'm just gonna let him just talk. It's fine. Here's the thing. I totally agree with your question and your method. In other words, the question of how do we get this? How do we get here? Is a great question to ask, and the method of let's look in the past. That's a great method to
Well,
uncover
I
that. So
actually,
so
I
so
did,
because that is the
oh,
case, I'm not even going to push back on anything you've said.
oh, good. Well, thank God. I feel like a guest.
You've
Um,
been accepted.
well, let me tell you about my methodology here. I mean, I already knew a lot about prehistory because I studied a little anthropology in college, and I understood what the difference between apes and man, and ape law. I studied a little ape law in college,
Ape. Wait,
and
what'd you say? Ape law?
ape law. You ever see Planet of the Apes? This
Yeah.
is not ape law.
Oh, ape law.
Ape law.
I
Yes.
thought when you said ape law, I thought this was a like an anthropologist, like a surname of an anthropologist that
Oh,
I'd never heard before. Who's Jonathan Ape Law?
I was just gonna say John Ape Law.
I haven't read his work.
Yes, John A. Plaw.
John Ape
No, Ape.
Law. I
Yes.
have not read his work. Do enlighten me
Yeah.
about ape law.
Yes. Well, you see, a planet where apes evolved from man. Yes.
So
Yeah.
is ape law like humans are not allowed to speak because they can't speak?
It has been a long time since I've seen Planet of the Apes, but as
Me
I
too.
recall,
Me too. I was
it
just
was a.
like trying to come up with something that would seem to fit because
Well,
it has been for.
I remember it was a big revelation when he talked because he's like,
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
Spoke.
"Talk, you can talk, you can talk."
Wasn't it in the movie though? Like of course talking about the original. Um,
Yes.
it was in the movie where they just thought it was a trick. Like he couldn't possibly be speaking.
Right. They tried to like disprove that
Like
he
this
that
is
he could
just
talk.
like ventriloquism.
Yes. Yes,
Okay,
they try to
so
intellectualize it
so
away.
you read
I
ape
love that
law.
movie.
So
Yes,
you're well versed in ape law.
well versed in ape law, um, but I didn't really know how he developed historically. So what I did, and you can find this on Google Maps. I in the area in Vegas that I lived in, there was a place called Rancho Alivardo East Apartments, and I looked it up. I did some little internet sleuthery, and I found that there was a portal behind a dumpster
Wait, a mystical
in
portal?
yeah, like a mystical portal with like glowing lights and kind of vaguely vaginal shaped. And I entered the portal.
Okay.
So it sent me back to the year 4004 BCE,
Okay.
which is around the time that several important things all happen at once.
Like yeah,
The horse was domesticated, beer was discovered, writing was invented, and
Bronze
God said,
Age.
and also Yahweh created the heaven and the earth, or all around the same time. Um,
Mm.
so as you may or may not know, time flows, excuse me, most unusually when studying history. It can get a little disorienting, and the most commonly cited example of this scale is the fact that the pyramids were more ancient to Cleopatra than Cleopatra is to us. It just gives you a context of how old the pyramids are, and that's going to be true for hundreds of years. Like
Mm.
the pyramids were way older for Cleopatra than she is to us.
Right, but that's not. I mean, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I think that's surprising to a lot of Americans, but
Right.
because we have like a foreshortened view
Yes.
of history. Like it's hard for us to really conceive of the depths of how old certain things are. I mean, I'm not talking
We are
all Americans, but just culturally
well, yeah.
speaking, because everything's so new for us in
We're
America,
very young. We're a
especially
very young country.
especially where
Yes.
we grew up, Las Vegas. Like it's almost like there's the 20th century and then there's ancient times or something. Like it's like there's
Yeah.
the Las Vegas skyline, which is a product of the last 80 years or something, and then anything beyond that is like really kind of touch and go, like how old is this exactly? But I
Yeah.
think people in Egypt, they know, obviously those who have gone through like school, and they know about their different kingdoms and the different periods and the different epochs, and I think they see like the Ptolemies as being like almost a modern thing, like
Right.
like
Yeah.
Cleopatra, the Ptolemies, that's like that was just yesterday, because they know
Right.
very well that their history goes back super far.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll give you like an even, I guess, better example of how disorienting it is, because if you ever watch, like if you go on YouTube and look up there's like a 10-minute long history of planet Earth, where it kind of shows like how the Pangea was
Oh,
formed,
right, right, right.
and the and the various rocks and debris that have hit the planet and made the
Yeah,
moon and all this stuff. And it's like humanity doesn't even pop up until like the last half second of the video.
right. Yeah, I've seen those before as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Humanity comes into being like at 11:59 and and then yeah. So obviously, yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard to imagine really how far back like e- experience on planet Earth goes, that we that are so far back. But lately, I think it's been quite, bit of a side note, but I think it's been quite it's been a trip. Just say it's been a trip to see uh these restored film footage from the 1880s,
Yes.
1890s, 19 teens, 1908, where it's like in color and people are moving around like human beings and they look like, it's all like detailed. And I'm
Yeah.
like, whoa, that's kind of how I imagined it would be, but it's really incredible to see it, because you realize that wasn't that long ago. Actually, when we saw it in these herky jerky black and white images, we're like, oh, that was super long ago. But now that we see it like as if it were almost filmed with a digital camera in the last few years, you're like, you know what? It looks familiar. It looks familiar. Like that doesn't look
Right.
like that long ago. It was like our grandparents or great grandparents' time or something, you know.
That's funny you talk about this, because I was going to bring up the fact that when you were talking about, we're as Americans, we're kind of think of something not that long ago as quote unquote ancient history. Because I was thinking a lot about how, because I've also been going back and watching a lot of old movies, old TV shows, and like, post World War II America, where everything is in black and white, and like mom, our mother was trying to explain this to me one day, where it's like there were all these like
Like movies
weird,
from the 50s, you mean? Like
yeah, like, and
black and
like
white.
weird propaganda films where it's like teaching you how to take care of yourself, brush your teeth at night, and what to do
I
if
think
the
we need to
Russians
bring those back.
attack. Well, it's just like, our mom was
Brush your
explaining
teeth,
it to
son.
me. Mom was explaining it to me how it's like after World War II, it's like we gotta get back down to basics. We have to go back to our like fundamental understanding of how to function in a society. You were talking about, you didn't want me to get too preachy, but I had a
No,
list
no, go
of,
ahead. No, just too preachy. I'll just edit it out.
well, yeah.
Just kidding.
Well,
I'm
I had
joking.
a I had a list of structures that were built before God created the heavens and the earth, which I thought was interesting. Um, do you know about Gobelki Tepe?
Oh
I don't
yes,
know how to
of
pronounce
course.
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I wish I could have gone there, but it's in way East Turkey.
Yeah. And the Tower of Jericho, and a few other things I don't really know how to pronounce, like
Mm.
Catalahuyuk,
Hmm.
which I believe is also in Turkey, and Mergar. Mergar.
Yeah. No, real quick. I know you're kind of tongue in cheek about the preachiness, but when you say preachy, like I actually don't know what you're trying to preach. If you're saying like, I mean, obviously
Well,
I'm not. Hold on. So real quick, just to clear the air,
oh,
like obviously you know I'm not. I don't subscribe to neither Christianity nor their chronology about like 4,000 years ago
yeah,
Yahweh or God created the earth. So this is not news to me that
right.
these structures are very old. So
Yes.
uh, I think the audience, if you're trying to disabuse the audience of certain notions about, like, no one who's listening to us is watching us from the Victorian period.
No. Well, it's funny. It's
So-
no. It's funny you say that, because, and maybe these folks are being tongue in cheek, but I don't know if you've ever encountered like a Christian literalist
oh, really? Not too often.
on the interwebs. Yeah, I had been encountering them a lot, and
Oh.
that's another thing where it's like, the flat earthers,
I'm in a different echo chamber, so I don't know these people even
right?
exist.
Well, it's believe me, it's outside my echo chamber that I'm dealing with these people. Um,
You seek them
but
out.
I mean, actually, not really, because I don't know if you've ever clicked the "For You" button on the Twitter, because every
Oh,
time I
no.
click on it, I feel like there's like a warning that should pop up that's like, you are about to encounter the dumbest shit you've ever
I
heard. Do
mean,
you
the
want to
dumbest shit
proceed?
that I try to avoid. I mean, there's a lot of dumb shit out there, but like, you know, like moon landing conspiracies and
Yeah,
stuff like
and
that. I'm like,
and
this is so. Or actually, the worst is the flat Earth stuff.
I was
It's like
just gonna
so
bring that up.
paper thin, and it's like, and people spend, even people who seem kind of intelligent spend hours, they sort of whole lives obsessing on these minutia of like, see, it
Right,
proves, and I'm like,
right.
why would you try to prove this? And okay, sorry, but this tangent
No,
is
this is
just
great.
too
This is great. This
tempting.
is what I wanted.
Like the thing I don't understand about these people who are trying to promote this flat Earth thing is because built into their argument is the idea that this big global like power structure, the elite or whatever, the globalists, they're trying to fool us into thinking we live on some non-geocentric Earth and that the Earth is actually round when it's actually flat. And I'm like, well, what would be in it for them? Why would the elite try to prove or try to hoodwink us into thinking we lived on a round world when it's really flat? What would they have to gain from that?
So we fall in line with
Why?
what the lizard people want. Duh.
But why would thinking the Earth is round or flat? Why would that like enter into, or why would that make us any more susceptible to lizard people's like propaganda than thinking we were living on a flat Earth? I mean,
Great question. And I think what I'm trying to do with this building is I feel like it's kind of like no pun intended, but try to set a foundation.
Okay. So back to the setting. So Göbekli Tepe,
Yeah.
Göbekli Tepe
Go back to
is really fascinating to me, and I think we'll probably find some more of those in the coming decades that have been just buried through the centuries. But I always assume that not that there were any, like, people say, oh, there's these Atlantises in our history, like 30,000 years ago there were flying cars, and then somehow we forgot those, and I don't believe that, but I do believe that there were pretty advanced civilizations who,
Yeah.
because when I was growing up, it was like, well, why would someone build a stone building or a stone temple if they were just, following the reindeer herds, or, unless there were unless there was an agricultural, like, foundation to their society, why would they stay in a particular place and build something of permanence? And I think that's suddenly been proven wrong, because obviously some of these old structures predate agriculture. So
Yeah, like Gobekli Tepe predates animal domestication. Like they found animals in the area that, like, either they hunted or used as a sacrifice, maybe. Um,
and
yeah,
the images on those structures, the columns in Göbekli Tepe are mostly animals,
yeah,
right? So
like
it's probably an
snake heads.
some kind of animistic or animism,
Absolutely.
religious, and don't forget the cave paintings in Lascaux.
Yeah,
All that's like probably an animistic
are really
totems, and
weird.
is like a cathedral of animism.
Hmm.
And even ancient, I don't know if you know the Lowenfrau, the lion, Lowenbrow or Lowenfrau. It's like I'll send you I'll put the image up, but it's like a 30,000-year-old statue of a lion man in Germany.
Holy shit!
Yeah, it's pretty freaking fascinating. Okay,
Have you
so
ever?
I keep interrupting you, but go.
No, well, it's like your tangents make me go on other tangents.
Yeah, this is probably healthy. We'll eventually get to your your point.
Yeah, what is my point? Well, Lee, I was able to witness a lot of stuff firsthand since traveling through that portal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Flowed through the current events of time
So tell me
naturally,
what you
spinning as.
this is the interesting part. Tell me
Yeah.
what you discovered.
Well, I just spent a lot of time studying stuff like Sumer, which I think you were talking about last week with someone.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Sumerians. Yeah,
yeah,
my
the
buddy
city of
Anthony.
Uruk.
Yeah.
Yes, he's seems like a swell guy. And I'm assuming you know about Akkad and Egypt, Bronze Age collapse.
Mm-hmm. Bronze Age collapse.
Yeah,
Yes.
bronze. That's when things really start kicking into high, because that's like the canon event for both
Yeah.
Greece and Rome. Oh, and when you're talking about Atlantis, I was going to start talking about Minoan civilization.
Oh, I love Minoan
Um,
civilization.
yes,
Yeah.
my favorite ancient civilization.
I've been to Crete. Crete is an amazing place.
Did you hang out with the Cretans?
There are a bunch of Cretans who live there. Um. Yes. Oh, but
No.
one thing I want to know is, you went into this portal and you traveled throughout time and space, and over thousands of years through these great upheavals of history, and I was wondering, like,
Yes.
how you survived without, like, antibiotics and stuff.
Well, I was in a non corporeal form,
Oh,
but I could go in and out of that form. I could become a wisp on the wind. Um,
that's
a,
good.
a, a song played by a flute for a little bit, but I was, I kind of came in and out of
You came in
time,
and out.
because
That's hot.
yeah, I know. I had to come back and pay bills and clock into work and stuff, but I was able to go back.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, what's it called?
Maybe you are yourself a god, because only gods can take corporeal and not
we're all
immaterial
gods.
forms. You're like Zeus turning into a bull to seduce, or a swan, or whoever he wants to be to seduce women.
Well, each man is a god. Each man is free. I
Whoa,
don't know.
man, that's so deep.
The Puma Man. Well, anyway, by the time everyone in the present was going through that whole COVID-19 pandemic thing, I was in the Punic Wars, which was fascinating.
Yeah,
Uh,
Punic
a
Wars.
good a good time was had by all, except for the Carthaginians.
Mm-hmm.
But I've slowed a bit historically since more and more things have been happening. The more data I have for each time period, the more I spend in that specific time period.
Right.
I've also been trying to cultivate as many life lessons and new information as I can. For example, did you know that macadamia nuts have nothing to do with Macedonia?
I
I
I
know
never thought they did, but now I know they don't.
that sounds stupid. Um, and also, speaking of Alexander the Great, and I spent a lot of time in the what is called the Three Kingdoms period in China, where I was taught the same lesson, which is don't get involved in a land war in Asia.
Yeah, it
Which I
looks
think is
like people are about to forget that now.
it's a lesson that gets constantly forgotten and relearned. I feel like, um, they say history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. It's got kind of a
Yes,
meter
right.
to it.
Yeah,
Yes,
for sure.
I don't know who said that, but maybe you could look it up for me.
I don't know.
Well, about 5.5 years after starting this journey in real time, and 4,424 years in portal time, I happen to be in the year 420, which is a
Uh-oh.
great year, a great number, great, which
Are
is
you
about
serious?
10, which is about 10 years.
Are you
And
making
I
a
spent,
marijuana reference?
well, I did spend a lot of time in 69, the year 69, which was a lot of fun because that's when Nero was killed and the year of the four emperors. Um,
Are you
but
doing are you doing numerological hedonism?
well, it's just it's important year. It's one of my favorite numbers. Those two numbers specifically. So I've been spending a lot of time in 420. Sometimes I spend all day in 420. Um, and it's an interesting year because it's about 10 years removed from Rome abandoning Britain forever. Um, and that's when I started to say, oh, I wonder if I could talk to Lee about this stuff.
Okay.
Talking about the 10 Islands. Do you know about the 10 Islands?
The 10 islands?
Yes.
Tin TIN
Um,
or TEN?
TIN. Yes.
Oh, well, I know about
AK.
the tin trade in Cornwall.
Yes. Well, the thing about tin is
It's
you
necessary in bronze too.
yes, you combine it with copper to make bronze.
Yeah.
The other thing about tin is that it is surprisingly rare. It's comparable to uranium in terms of rareness on Earth. So if you have tin in your backyard, hold on to it because it's valuable. But there are these things called the Tin
Oh, he's like
Islands.
a tin roof is like worth $10 million.
Could be, could be. I don't know if it's still true, but I think it's the tin that comes out of the Earth. Although we
It may
have
have been
advanced,
true back then.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know if it's true now. Yeah, but I mean,
maybe,
that's all that matters. In the time in which we're talking about, if it was a rare
yes,
commodity, then yeah,
yeah.
okay.
That might have been one of the reasons Rome was so determined to hang on to it because it was such a valuable commodity.
It makes sense.
So Herodotus,
Okay, so tell
um,
us about Herodotus.
yes, it's been called the father of history, or the inventor of history. More,
Are you
it's
sure
more.
that
He's
wasn't
more.
Thucydides?
Well, I was just gonna say before you interrupted me again. It's more accurate to call Herodotus the father of the travelogue because that's what he was
Ooh,
doing. He would wander around the ancient world and just anytime anybody told him anything, he'd just write it down.
right, right,
But
right.
you're right. Thucydides is more accurately described as the father of history.
I wasn't really pushing back. I was just adding another
you,
layer.
you, you. But the interesting thing, we've already talked about the 10 Islands and tin's inherent value. But the interesting thing is, Herodotus did not believe that the 10 Islands existed, which is funny because he believed almost everything anybody ever told him. Like you hear a lot of historians kind of go off about how well Herodotus is an interesting character because he uh, he wrote like everything anybody ever told him down, and
Mm.
he was met, even at the time, he was met with a lot of uh, skepticism.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but as time has progressed, like he talks about ants that could spin gold in Africa or whatever, and
All right.
then everyone was like, that doesn't make any sense. But then it came out that there was a species of ant that
Oh wow.
obviously it wasn't spinning gold, but it looked like it was. It kind of crawled around the earth and made these
Right,
little
right.
mud piles that had a
Hence
gold chain
the
connected.
hence the story. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah. Um, so in the 500 years or so between Herodotus and Caesar, the BC times before Caesar, the average person on the street of Rome or Greece or whatever would be justified in thinking that these islands truly didn't exist. Um, in fact, there were a lot of rumors about them, like that they ate human flesh and slept with their mothers and sisters in Iron. So people have been like roasting Irish since time immemorial. Um, so that's what
But isn't it
Strabo.
just true that people? I mean, because obviously, when you're in Greece and Rome, especially if it's pre-airplane or internet,
Mhm.
like these places are super, super, super far away, and they've probably never even met anyone who's been there.
Right.
So it's easy to come up with all kinds of fantasies about what that place could be possibly like. You know.
Yeah, and
Mm.
I'll send you a map, like one of the earliest maps of the world that someone tried to make, and it's just like you know all of Africa is Libya, and then
Right.
yeah, like if you see it on the camera right now, it'd just be a big circle, and it's a bunch of land masses that
Right.
look
No.
nothing
Yeah, I've
like
seen
what we
those
picture.
like
Yeah, and
maps
then
where
surrounded
it's
by
like
surrounded by
the
oceans.
Mediterranean Sea is like right in the middle, and then there's just a
Yeah,
circle around it.
and of course Greece and Rome are like at the very center, of course.
So instead of like a geocentric model, it's almost a merocentric model, like mare being the Latin of
Latin word
sea.
for the sea. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because I mean, I remember when I started getting deep into Mediterranean history, and I texted you at like 2 a.m. being like, Mediterranean equals Middle Earth.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Like that was a big
It's in the
revelation.
middle of the earth, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It is.
um. So yeah, in Albion in those maps are like at the
I'll be
very
honest with
very
you.
edge of the map. Yeah, you have to go soon, don't you?
Yeah, pretty soon.
Yeah.
But well, give
Well,
me 5 more minutes.
okay, okay.
But we could always do a part 2 if there's stuff. I feel like we're just still scratching the surface here.
Yeah, and I actually really like the tangent, so maybe we could do like a part two and
Yeah.
have it have it keep on going on the natural flow. You know
Yeah.
about well we'll end tonight talking about Thule. Do you know about Thule?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was meant to be it was one of the 10 islands that actually ended up becoming a myth. People thought that there was an extra island north of
Mm.
England called Thule, and
Mhm. Is it the same? Well, yeah. I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about, but it's funny because the carrying case that you attach on top of cars,
yeah.
and it's the company. I always called it Thule, but it's actually pronounced Thule. So I don't
Oh,
know if
really?
it's well. That's the name of the carrying case, Thule. Because I always pronounced that island and the mystical island and the real island as Thule, because I think that sounded cool, like Thor, Thule. I
Yeah.
come from Thule.
It sounds very
But
cool
then,
to say.
but then I was in the, I was in like,
Chops.
I was in REI,
Oh, okay.
and they were like, "Can I get one of those Thules?" And he's like, "You mean a Thule?
That doesn't sound as
That
exciting.
sounds ridiculous.
Cool.
A Thule? It sounds like a little Thule that you use to unscrew your
Yeah,
doohickey."
that's
Anyway, your
interesting.
dooley whacker.
We got to
But
find some
anyway, so I've heard
Thulians.
it's Thule, but yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, I know that there's myths surrounding this island of Thule or
Yes.
Thule.
Well, it turned out to be a myth. In more modern times, it's been associated with Iceland, Greenland, or Norway. It could have been either any of those islands, but Another historian, Pythias,
Mm.
who was the first person to describe the midnight sun phenomenon.
Oh, right.
He claimed that he went to Thule,
Mm.
and though no records of his actual writing takes place, we have authors who quoted him, including Polybius.
Mm.
And I'm just going to read from this quote by Polybius, and we could end it there if you want.
Yeah.
But he's talking about Pythias, who has led many people into error by saying that he traversed the whole of Britain on foot, giving the island a circumference of 40,000 stadia, and telling us also about Thule, whose regions in which there was no longer any proper land, nor sea, nor air, but a sort of mixture of all three of the consistency of a jellyfish, in which one can neither walk nor sail, holding everything
sounds
together. So
sounds like he visited Jupiter.
he visited a land where it kind of made me think of Chronicles of Narnia, Voyage of the
Yeah.
Dawn Treader a little bit. We
Right.
go to
Right.
this
Right.
place that's like the water and the air and the earth kind of all mixed together in a kind
Yeah.
of a jumble.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if that
Interesting.
was purpose.
Very cool.
Yeah.